the various ways that people approach customer support really starts in the foundations. How do the senior leaders, that C-suite, how do they think about the customer support team? How do they fund it? How do they include it? And how have they been including it? And so if you look at all of these startups that exist in the world, when do they actually hire someone from customer experience to start shaping this customer journey? And often it is way down the road when they start thinking about this.
Welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm excited to have Sarah Caminiti with us. Sarah is the manager of customer support at Tailscale. Tailscale is revolutionizing secure networking with its really easy to use zero config VPN service. At Tailscale, Sarah focuses on delivering an exceptional customer experience to all their customers, but also optimizing operations behind the scenes, ensuring that support not only resolves the immediate problems at hand, but also work towards enhancing the product experience for all of their customers. Beyond her role at Tailscale, Sarah is also a career strategist, consultant, and mentor, and she helps CX professionals navigate through leadership and challenges in their in their career growth. Uh, She's also the host of the Career Strategist podcast, which was earlier called Epochal Growth, and she dives into topics around leadership, career transitions, and helping people navigate the evolving landscape of customer experience. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah. Really looking forward to the conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so pumped to be here. This is very full circle. My whole journey being a public facing person started with Hiver. And it is such an honor to continue this relationship with you all and have this conversation. So thanks for getting through my multi-layered intro there. I'm realizing maybe I need to take a vacation or say no every once in a while. But I appreciate you.
No, layers are good, Sarah. Absolutely, almost always. Great. So let's start from the start, Sarah. The best place to start would be for us to understand how you got into CX. How did you start your journey in the customer experience space, and how did you come to be at your current position of managing customer service at Tailscale? So just give us the entire story.
All right. Well, do you have 17 hours? I will try to make it brief. Like many of these veterans that you have been talking to within the CX space, we probably didn't land here by choice. Customer support in tech was not really a career, really, when it all started. When I started, I have been in and around customer experience in every way, shape, or form. I've run from it so many times because I didn't think I could make a career that I loved out of it. And then I found SaaS, I found remote work, I found startups, and I realized that I am a builder. And it is so exciting to be able to be collaborating with all of these wonderful people from around the world, creating something that we're proud of and letting that evolve and grow and helping others be successful is kind of that fine line that goes through all of my random career spaces, and being able to turn that into something magical within CX in the tech space, as well as leading teams and being the leader I always knew existed, and helping others see that you can lead differently has been quite a great journey.
Excellent. Good to hear that. Uh, Love to know more about. I'm sure CX is such a multifaceted role. It's like a colorful spectrum, right? But would be very interesting to know what parts of it are the most exciting to you. I'm sure you like all of it, but what is it that?
Oh, there's definitely things I don't like. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is not a perfect space all the time, but I love listening to the customer. I love looking at the data and doing the root cause analysis. And I love experimenting and creating a safe space for my teams to experiment. Working in CX, it's such an interesting space to build a career because you're talking to people all the time, and they are people that are struggling, they're confused, they're hesitant to be totally honest because they're embarrassed that they don't know why their email's not working, or because they can't remember their password for the 50th time this month. And to be able to make a positive impact in someone's day and teach others the power of making a positive impact, and then take that information that you learned because you gave yourself that time to pause, and you gave yourself that time to actually show the customer that you value their success so much that you're not just going to make an assumption. You really do want to help them, and use that data to then bring that to product, to actually continue to build a product that the customer that already said yes wants, and use that to celebrate the customers that felt safe enough to share their feature request ideas, or to say, you know what, this does not work for me, or why did you change the color of this button? Now I cannot find it. It just gets lost in there. And it's a cool place to be. It's a cool place to learn how to communicate with people that are from around the world, that are all having different types of days, and and just make something special out of it.
Absolutely. Totally relate to that. One thing that struck me there in your description was that, of course, we all know it, but what struck me was that it's such a left brain plus right brain thing, right? I mean, you have to use both in pretty much everything that we do, but it applies so much to anything that is customer facing, where you have to be empathetic enough, creative enough to be able to connect the dots between what a customer might be facing, and at the same time go back, work with data, work with technology, and get it done right. How do you hire for something like this? Any learnings from the best rock stars that you might have hired for, and what traits that you might have looked for?
That's a great question, because hiring is a wild ride. And I've learned through so many failures that what may seem obvious is not. And what has helped me the most in my hiring journey has been focusing not so much on the resume and not so much on the cover letter, but I like to put a couple of writing prompts in there for very basic. This isn't like, one of those big 7-hour take home projects, but just simple. This customer forgot their password, or this person, is struggling with this, easy little bit. And how do you approach it?
Hmm.
Like, how do you start this conversation? How do you ask questions? When I was in a previous role doing all hands support, I was training engineers from around the world to be competent, confident, and empathetic support professionals, which, being someone in tech, I'm sure you understand, for a lot of engineers, that does not come naturally. And what I would do is I didn't need to teach them how to explain technical situations. That's not where I'm here. But teaching them how to form their sentences, create those paragraphs that were engaging, share information in a way that wasn't overwhelming. That was actually what made the difference. And listen to them when they're asking questions, and giving them the tools they need to be successful. So I would do a 6-month ramp, or 6 month, that would be intense, 6-week ramp up, where we would start with sample scenarios, and then we would work on those together, and they would share their version of it, and then I would give them my version of it, and then we would talk about the difference between the two. And it's really all about understanding how to communicate well,
Hmm.
because you don't really need specific industry experience if you know what good looks like.
Makes sense.
And trust your gut
Yeah,
when you're hiring for that.
makes sense. Plus, you made this exceptional point that everyone is in support, right? And the better everyone is at it, the better the company actually gets ultimately.
Yep.
Another thing that you just earlier alluded to was, of course, one part of your job is, handling customers. The other part is, as you mentioned, right, making sure that you're extremely data driven, taking all those insights to, different sections of leadership in your company, and making sure that all those learnings actually drive action. Can you tell us a bit more about how you do that, and any learnings that you might have had in being able to affect change through that process?
Yes. Once I understood the power of the data that existed within the customer support queue, it totally changed the way I approach my career. Um, Before there were a lot of these root cause analysis AI tools that existed, I created my own like 15-point spreadsheet, and I went through every single customer interaction that came in every month and I did root cause analysis on it. I looked for places in documentation that could have been improved. I looked at who was actually helping this customer, and I noticing trends with different engineering teams that are being pulled into specific areas. I looked for sales opportunities. It wasn't one of those QA scenarios where I'm just like berating everyone for the way that they talk to them. Instead, it was, what's the actual problem? Did we solve it? And if we didn't solve it, why didn't we solve it? Because as a leader, if my team is unable to do what they need to do, that's not on them. That's on me. So I need to figure out, when in this journey did things become unclear and
Mhm.
why they're not feeling safe enough to ask questions. And and that's really how I approach building my teams and scaling my teams. And the way that this trickles down to the customer is, if your teams feel safe to ask questions, if your teams feel supported and heard and a part of the company's experience, then the customer is also going to feel safe because they're given that care and that time. And that's how you extract that data. So, going back to the type of reporting and that data extraction, it is everything that a company needs to be successful. If you are not paying attention to every single thing your customers are saying, you are failing as a company, because they're the people that already said yes.
Yeah,
So, why are you trying to make something for someone that you've never met before?
makes sense. Makes absolutely right. So, the learning for me there is that it's very important to not just look at, specifically and narrowly what the customer support team just does, but beyond that, to every area that experience intersects with, right? And it might be your sales documentation, it might be a support documentation, it might be a product experience. And as a leader, the more effectively you bring that to light, the more effective it is for the company in being able to acquire and retain its customers. I hope
Yes.
that is a good summarization of that learning there, right? Great. One thing, we briefly touched on it, but one thing that I would love to get your thoughts on is what customer support orgs generally do in most companies, right? And kind of compare and contrast that with the role that you think customer support orgs should ideally play in most companies, right? And I'm sure there is a huge gap. We all know about it in abstract terms, but I think getting deep into it will be very useful.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking this question, because the various ways that people approach customer support really starts in the foundations. How do the senior leaders, that C-suite, how do they think about the customer support team? How do they fund it? How do they include it? And how have they been including it? And so, if you look at all of these startups that exist in the world, when do they actually hire someone from customer experience to start shaping this customer journey? And often it is way down the road when they start thinking about this, because the founder thinks that they can do it. And what that is doing is, from day one, the founder or the CEO or whomever it is has decided that customer support is not a full time job. Customer support is something that anybody can do. You can do this while you're doing 25 different things. And it's something that then does not get the actual
Mhm.
weight and support that it needs. So then, once you get to that point where 2 years later, you can no longer maintain any sort of customer communication that's effective and also do all the other stuff you're doing, so you just grab some random person and you probably underpay them, and you use the excuse of, we're still getting our funding, but hang tight, one day it'll pay off, even though it never does. And then they're just expected to pick up these pieces. But all of the customers that have been there for those first couple of years, or however long it is before you actually start thinking about building a space for customers to succeed, they've been experiencing something totally different. That foundation has been created. The way they talk about the company, that's already started. And that means that the company has put themselves so far behind, and that's a really hard place to come back from. So the companies that approach customer support in different ways really does lean on how does that C-suite view the value of the customer, and bring them in to to the company's success. So companies that do it well, those are the companies that understand that the customer, like pain points, their conversations with support are the most important things for the way that a company is going to evolve. It is the only thing driving decisions. It is the only thing driving marketing. It's like, are you using the right terms that your customers are using in your search bar? Like, are you actually listening? And that's not something that you need to buy into. It's not something that the support people need to put all of their energy into trying to sell the value of their work and their worth to all of these other departments, because the companies that do it well already get it. Listen to the customer, value the customer support team, the customer experience team, and celebrate them because they need to be at the center of every single thing to make this business successful. Then on the other end, you got the old school way of doing things. You've got the underfunded, underappreciated, usually under resourced. Customer support leaders don't have access to their budget. Customer support leaders don't have any say in the tools that they have. They're stuck using help desks that are from, like 1980 and do not give them anything that they need. The data's bad and everyone just keeps saying, "Oh, we've got too much tech debt. We can't prioritize any of these things that you're saying." And the tech debt is a retention problem. Tech debt is what makes these customers leave because they're not being heard. Things break because you do not take the time to create a product that actually works for the customer. Yes, MVPs need to happen. Yes, there's all of that moving fast mentality within startups. But if you need to do that, then you need to go back and fix it. You need to finish your job. You can't just keep moving forward, forgetting about all of these things. And that's where you see those customer support spaces not be that great because they're stressed. They're told they're replaceable. They're, trying to just pay their bills. They probably have 3 other jobs. They don't get health insurance, all of these things. And that's going to impact the way they communicate with the customer. And they're the only people that are communicating with the customer, which is the piece that blows my mind.
Absolutely right. So I have two kind of questions that come to my mind from this. I'll just tell you the first one first, right? Let's say I mean, and for this I'll need you to don your other hat of a mentor, right? Let's say you have a customer support leader who is kind of stuck in this kind of a situation, right, where they're in a company which is good in many ways, right? It has good leaders who understand, but then it is stuck in this rut of handling or dealing with customer support in this very traditional way that you described, right? How does such a leader navigate the situation and gently nudge or push people to actually turn things the other way and then set it right?
Honestly, I don't think they should. I think they should find another job where they're appreciated. I think that they should enter into a new space confident in their abilities, able to articulate their value and their worth, and the company that they join already meets them where they need to meet them. Because if people by now don't care about the customer, they are never going to care about the customer. And then you deal with gaslighting, then you deal with weird power dynamics. And if people keep staying in those jobs, that's that's basically saying it's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to change. So be loud about it. Say this is not okay. Tell your team this is not how it's supposed to be. This feels gross because it is gross. And it's not our job to change the way every single person within this company decides to think about this department.
Hmm.
That's on them to figure out.
And probably quitting is the best message that you can pass that can actually affect the change in the company, right? Maybe that is how loud you have to be to make it happen.
Yeah, and in this job economy right now, that's a risky thing to do, and I don't think you should do it until you have something lined up. But no, to any of the CX leaders that find themselves in this position that might be listening to this podcast, you are doing incredible things and you deserve to be treated with respect and be celebrated and be given the tools that you need to be successful. And you can find it. You just have to be patient sometimes.
Makes sense. And the second question, right, which is again a branch off from your last point, is that how does a leader like me, my peers, basically go about thinking about putting customer experience at the center of everything, right? We think about it in bits and pieces, we think about it in ad hoc ways, but how do we go about really designing everything so that customer experience is at the center of everything, right from product to marketing to sales to customer experience?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to look at your product roadmap. How much of your product roadmap is new? How many of those new things are based off of
Hmm.
customer suggestions and feature requests? Or how many of those are just exciting things that someone on the development team came up with and, you decide to lean into that? And then also, how much tech debt do you have? Are you actually tackling tech debt? And once you kind of get a sense of how are we looking at the actual customer experience, because that product roadmap really does tell you what the future is going to be for your company, who is in the room and who is an equal? Because if a customer support leader, if your customer experience leaders, the people that are managing the teams that are on the floor talking to your customers, if they are not in product development meetings, if they are not a part of launches, if they are not a part of marketing campaigns, if they're not talking to the sales team, if they are not the first person that you invite to every single meeting that has to do with this company being successful, then you are not customer obsessed.
Makes sense. I think this was a very substantial and important point, right? And that I think is a very good proxy of looking at whether a company is doing a good job at this or not, right? I mean, that gives you a very quick idea of how seriously a company actually takes customer experience, right? Yeah, that is very very useful, right? That will bring me to the last thing that I want to talk about, kind of a topic that no one can stop talking about, which is AI, right? And I'm sure you have intersected with it, I'm sure you have thought about it, but how do you see the impact of AI, not just on how customer support teams do their job, but also in contributing to overall customer centricity in organizations, right, over the next 3 to 5 years? Not a very short term window, there is not a lot of noise, a lot of hype, but let's look at a slightly longer mid to long term window.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be very interesting. I don't think that AI should talk to customers ever. And if they're going to talk to customers, then you better have an incredibly robust,
Yeah.
skilled QA team monitoring every single interaction that this AI tool is using to communicate with customers. You cannot cut corners and you can't blindly trust a robot. Anytime you miss something, it's learning that this is the correct way, and that can spiral very, very quickly. So keep that in mind. But the cool thing about AI is it's allowed space for recognition of a lot of the things that CX leaders have been doing manually for years and giving them an opportunity to find more effective ways to use their skills. So that 40 hours every month that I was spending manually going through every single ticket that came in, now there is a zero bias, totally automated AI tool that can go in and do that exact same root cause analysis. I can customize it to look for all of the things that I know are important so that I don't find myself in those situations where you don't know what you don't know until it's too late. But then that time is mine to analyze the data. That time is mine to be a part of conversations. That time is mine to ask my team questions and to better support them and better understand what's going on. And that trickles down to my team. By now, if you're hiring skilled professionals within the customer experience space, you are hiring people that know what good looks like. They've been doing this for a long time. And if they are dealing with noise constantly, then you're wasting so much incredible skill. So understand what makes them excited. Maybe it is taking a look at all those tier one questions that most people think you can just bump off to a bot. But the reality is, first of all, those are incredible opportunities to create a great customer experience and show the customer that you care enough about them that you're not going to send them over to a bot. It has to do with your actual like UI and UX, because if these easy questions are always popping up, what's going on in your product that is making it so that it's not clear to these customers? What's going on in your docs? Your docs should be your first line of defense, because then you're saying, we tried to educate them and gave them these resources. But really, that's just a band aid. If someone has a question about something and it's not because, they're lost and then they realize it and they fix the problem and move on. If you're noticing a trend, this is something that product needs to be excited to pay attention to, because this is how people use the product. This is the stuff that makes churn happen. We are all consumers, and we have all been in those situations where we are trying to figure something out. We thought it was going to be easy. It's not easy. And then we start thinking, what else is out there? And once you plant that seed for what else is out there, and in this day and age, there are so many versions of the exact same thing. The only differentiator is the customer experience.
Yeah. I think I totally got what you said there, and it makes so much sense, right? I mean, essentially, what you're saying is that you can essentially offload a lot of work to AI so that customer support agents can actually spend more time in front of customers, right? Because that is what they need to do. That is where the learning happens. That is what impacts, customer experience the most, and that is where you have the most to learn that you can take back to product, right? So offload as much
Totally.
as possible of the background work to AI, and spend as much time as possible in front of customers, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is the voice of the customer program. These are people
Yeah,
that have reached out.
they
This
have.
is the time where you can be proactive. You can think outside the box. You can experiment. You can send a gift box to someone because they finally understood how to do something. But you can't do that if you are just in the weeds all the time.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. That brings me to the end of the podcast, Sarah. And it was really useful. I think I have a lot of insights there, which are not only useful to the audience, but also to me as a founder and a CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a great time. I really appreciate the opportunity, and big fan of Hiver, and I can't wait to see what happens next for you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.